We'd love to take some questions, or did you all get that on the first go-around?
It's a lot of stuff. Yes?
Just one question about the donut hole. It was my understanding that that disappears after 2014, doesn't it?
50.
50,
Thank you.
okay.
Always feel free to make sure I'm getting all the information, and that's exactly right. What the lady's question was does the donut hole get closed sooner than it previously was? Originally, in the Affordable Health Care Act, it was to be closed in 2020, which we disagreed with. But hey, that's still better than keeping the donut hole going. But what happened is the president put in his budget to close it sooner, which is 2015.
Could you just spend another 30 seconds on the dual eligibility items? What did we have?
Sure.
We don't have now? I don't,
Yep, yep.
I've never heard of this.
And I would
before.
ask my friend Tom to feel like he should feel free to join in here, because Tom used to be the executive director of the Coalition Wisconsin Age Group. Before 2003, before the Medicare Part D law passed, people who were on Medicaid dual eligibility, Medicaid and Medicare, we would be able to get a rebate from the pharmaceutical companies to pay for some of those medications, where we saw a significant amount of money coming in through that. But when the law passed in 2003, and parts of that bill were really good, you know, helping people pay for their medications, which are crucial. But the two outstanding pieces that we really were so upset about was, one, the issue of not being able to negotiate, and the second one, which basically removed the right to have a rebate for that dual eligibility of Medicare and Medicaid. Tom?
I'll just add to that. When we're talking about the rebates, we're talking about Medicaid, the Medicaid program, because that's the program that got the rebates. And Medicaid, you know, is paid for partly by the federal government, partly by the state government. And so when the Medicaid got the rebates, that went to lower the overall cost of the program for those drugs. Well, when Part D came in and said we'll switch all the dual eligibles, including all the Medicaid people, just to Part D. So they don't get the rebates anymore. It was a windfall, because I may be wrong on this figure, but it seems like it was like $50 million or something in Wisconsin that Wisconsin was getting. So you multiply that by 50 other states, it was a lot of money. And just to give you one other example, do you know senior care? The senior care program, which is the state waiver program. Well, it's a Medicaid waiver, and so the state still gets rebates, and guess what? The program is paid for by the rebates, federal government, state government. The rebates pay 60% of the cost of the program. The state and federal government pay 40%. So, as you can see, rebates are a significant amount of money.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if we could have the numbers on those two bills and
Sure.
regarding that.
Sure, I apologize if I was speaking too fast. For the Hartley bill, it's 576, and basically it's called the Strengthening Social Security Act, and basically what it does is phase in taking the cap off.
That would be S 576.
I'm sorry, S576.
Just the-
S117 is the one by Senator Klobuchar, which basically allows Medicare to do exactly what the Veterans Administration currently does, which is negotiating. And then Senate Bill 740, Senator Rockefeller, is the one that would restore what Tom and I were saying about the dual eligible, the rebate from the Medicaid program. And just by doing those kinds of things, we will make significant progress in dealing with the kinds of savings so that we can really truly have a solvent Medicare trust fund, which is not stable. financially. And we've got to do something. And these are some ways of doing it versus things that really would hurt people like yourselves in this room. And as I said before, we're not going to support any of those things if people are not going to be reasonable. And my parents taught me that being reasonable means you work with people, you disagree with people, you work out and solve problems. Well, there are people in Congress who have got to learn how to be adults. If Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill from different parties can be adults, there's got to be somebody in Congress to work with our president on solving that problem.
It's got here that Harkins is
Wait, there's a question back here. Hold on a second.
567.
What?
Says here 567.
Thank you. 567, not 576. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for doing that. Yes.
Does your organization support rare retirement and to keep it the same way without dovetailing it into Social Security?
Say the first part.
Does your organization support rare retirement, keeping it the same? I know Paul Ryan just took it out of his
Okay,
budget. but
yeah, yes,
that's
to answer your
big
question,
concern.
we believe the retirement age should stay as is. And the only way,
I'm talking about rare retirement.
Railroad.
Railroad retirement.
railroad retirement, gotcha. You know, I don't know if we've actually taken a position in that, so I don't wanna, my reaction is yes, but,
We have our own system. and
Right, that's
we're
right, but you're right.
The way it is, without that being interfered with.
I guess to answer your question, with not knowing all the details of why not, our instincts say that you've worked and put labor in, and at some point you have the right to a quality of life. And so my answer to you is, yes, stay.
It's an annuity, it's a separate program. We pay 4 times the amount Social Security paid in, so we earned it. I just don't want to
Yeah.
get to the platform and they get robbed.
You won't get robbed, and it's gonna be people like yourselves and organizations like ours that hopefully can say they're alternatives to changing and increasing the retirement age. There's something out there which sort of, I'm not totally understanding how people think that when you become 65, 66, 67, whatever it is, that you don't have a right, that you've earned this right to have a quality of life, and by trying to increase this 70 years old, with the logic being that people are living longer. That is somewhat true, living longer, if you're a wealthy American. It is not true for those who work in physically challenged jobs.
That's what I'm
So, the bottom line is, again, we're not even gonna make any compromises. That's where we're at. But if there was ever gonna be a compromise ever made, it sure wouldn't be to the workers like the woman I talked to you about that was from Fox Valley, a steelworker retiree. And for people to say they're willing to make that woman pay have 13% cut of benefits for those 4 years is unbelievable, when right now under certain budgets, we're seeing some of the largest tax cuts again in Congressman Ryan's budget. That's gonna cost you and me $4 trillion over 10 years.
I would also say, I don't know what the National Committee's position is either, but if you would give us your name and an email address or mailing address, we could find out and get that to you.
And I'll give you my card at the end
Because
of the meeting, too.
we represent really 2 national organizations, so.
Yes.
As long as railroad retirement has been brought up, there is